Allow me to show you something.
Old friends are turning to strangers. Ex-lovers mad that I'm famous. They see the picture I painted. I've been going through changes. I pray to God and I hate it. Nobody did me no favors. I'm sorry if you can't take it. I've been going through changes.
Hey guys, it's Chandler Alexis and welcome back to my channel. So today I am here with my birth story. So if you guys don't know, oh my gosh, why is my voice already cracking and I'm barely started in this video? Guys, I literally, like, before I even start, I literally had to drop my son off with my mom because I knew if he was here I would legit start crying while telling the story, and I'm already about to freaking start crying, so I guess that was pointless. But I'm going to be telling you guys what I went through while giving birth to my son, and it's a really emotional story. If you guys saw my labor and delivery vlog, you kind of already know that, so brace yourself. But if you haven't seen that video, I will link it down below for you to watch that first and then come here, and I'm going to basically just explain that video into more depth. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. I hope you guys enjoy. So this story actually starts on January 30th. Okay, my son January 30th. My son was born on January 31st. But on January 30th, the day before, I woke up out of my bed and I was feeling like wet. This is kind of TMI, but I was feeling kind of wet and I was like, I don't know if my water broke. So I went to the bathroom and no, my water did not break, but my mucus plug came out. And I'm not going to go into depth about what a mucus plug is, but just know it's kind of gross looking. So anyways, it came out, but I wasn't sure if when it came out I was supposed to go to the hospital because I wasn't contracting or anything. I just, like, my mucus plug came out, you know. So I called my doctor up. By the way, when this happened, it was like 7 in the morning. So I called my doctor up and I asked the nurse or her, like, assistant, no, Ferrari, if I'm supposed to go to the hospital. Like, I'm like, do I go to the hospital? I don't know. And she was like, well, if it's just your mucus plug, nothing else has happened, like you're not feeling dizzy or you're throwing up or anything like that, then you're fine. You can stay home, relax, cool. And I was like, great, because I actually had to go pick up my baby dad from the airport on the 30th. But I didn't have to pick him up until 2 p.m. So keep in mind, at 7 in the morning, I don't have to pick him up till 2 p.m. and his mom. So I'm like, cool, I can still, you know, go to that. So anyways, I end up getting back in bed, going to sleep, but around 9 a.m. once again I feel wet and I'm like, did my water break now? So I go to the bathroom and no, just more of my mucus plug was coming out. And I didn't know that your mucus plug could come out like in bits. I thought it all just came out at once, but no, for me it was like it came out twice, like 2 parts of it. So at this point though, I'm starting to get a few Braxton Hicks is what I'll say they were, because they weren't like contractions, which I know how contractions feel now, but they're like Braxton Hicks. But to me, I was thinking that they were contractions because my mucus plug just came out, right? So I start timing them, and at this point, guys, literally I have it on my phone. Let me see what the timing was. Okay, so at this point, my contractions were about 17 to 20 minutes apart, which is a long time for them to be apart. Actually, sometimes they're 30 minutes apart on here as well. But at this point, I'm like, okay, she said if I was contracting, then to come in. So I'm thinking these are contractions. So just to be safe as well, I also, like, guys, I had to drive to LA. I live about an hour away from LA, but with traffic, I live like 2.5 hours. So I didn't want to start driving and get on the freeway and then all of a sudden I'm pushing out a baby on the freeway, you know? So I was like, let me just go to the hospital just to make sure, as well as my mom was like freaking out. She was like, you need to go to the hospital. You don't know. You need to go. Like, my mom freaks out about everything. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go to the hospital just to double check. But the reason I didn't really want to go to the hospital is because, one, even if I was contracting, I wanted to labor at home for as long as I could and then go to the hospital because I don't like hospitals. But two, I got injured earlier in my pregnancy and I had to go to the hospital and they had me there for 8 hours. 8 hours! And then sent me home. And I was like, I don't want to be there for 8 hours, okay? So anyways, I get there. I walk in, I check in, and then they move me into the room where, like, a doctor comes in. It's just like a doctor's office, basically. Like, the doctor comes in, they check you, whatever. But a nurse came in and checked me. And actually, a doctor came in as well later and checked me. And so what they did was they just kind of monitored the baby. They monitored my contractions. And I was just laying in bed. And so eventually, guys, I was in there for about, okay, 10. I got there at 10 a.m. So I was in there until 12. But when it got to like 11:30-ish, I asked the doctor, I was like, do I really have to stay here? Because like they weren't really doing anything. And I asked him like, what were they going to be doing? He was like, well, we're just going to be monitoring you for the next 3 hours. And I was like, the next 3 hours? Like, it's 11 o'clock. I need to pick up my baby dad and his mom at the airport at 2. If they're going to be monitoring me for 3 more hours, by the time they're done, it's going to be 3 p.m. and I need to be at the airport at 2. Like, that's just not gonna work out, you know? So I asked him, I was like, is it that serious? Like, is there something going on? Or like, cause like I have somewhere to be. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go talk to the other doctor and we'll be right back with you. So about 10-15 minutes later, a girl doctor comes in and she was like, hey, so I hear you're trying to leave. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, we checked everything, you seem fine. I don't think your baby's gonna come today. I think you're still gonna be on your scheduled induction date, which is the 2nd. My induction date was February 2nd. So she was like, you're good to go if you want. You know, you can stay if you want. You can go if you want. It's up to you. So I was like, okay, deuces. I'm out. I literally got dressed and I dipped. And from there, guys, I had actually had plans on doing things like at my house. I need to finish packing bags for the hospital and stuff like that because, well, we'll get into this later on. But I had more things I needed to do before heading to LA. But at this point, I left the hospital at literally like 12 o'clock, 12:02. And I looked on my GPS. It said it was going to take me an hour and a half to get to LA. I was like, I have no time to go back to my house. I literally went from the hospital to LAX to pick up my baby dad and his mom. As I'm driving to LA though, I literally start getting the worst contractions ever. And at this point, guys, they were contractions. So I was getting them about 6 to 7 minutes apart. And they hurt like shit. Like, first of all, most people say they can't even like walk or talk when they're having contractions. Imagine trying to drive. Not that safe, but I managed it. I toughened it out and I did it. I got to LA, I picked up my baby dad and his mom, and then I was starving because, guys, as you heard from my story so far, I woke up, went to the hospital, went to LA. I had not ate anything, so I was starving. So from picking them up, we went to In-N-Out, got food. And I think it's crazy how, like, now that I'm thinking about it, how like normal I was just going about my day while I was having contractions. Like, so anyways, we get In-N-Out and then we start heading to my parents' house. Now I'll talk about this. The reason we were heading to my parents' house is because it was a lot of us in town for my son's birth. So it was me, my baby dad, his mom, my grandma was in town as well, and my uncle, and who else? I think that was it. It was 5 people though, okay? So, but my uncle was staying at my mom's house already. And then my grandma was supposed to stay at my house after the baby was born. However, my grandma, me, my baby dad, and his mom, all 4 of us could not fit in my 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, like, we probably could have found a way, but it's just too crowded. Versus staying at my parents' 5-bedroom house, like, that just was more comfortable. So what we ended up doing was everybody just stayed at my parents' house. Now, keep in mind, my induction date was for the 2nd. So that meant my baby dad and his mom were staying, like, a week early and then a week later. So for that week we were going to stay at my parents' house, and then after the baby's born we were going to come back to my house. That was how we were going to do it, but in the end we ended up just staying at my parents' house the whole time because it was just easier. It was more space, you know, everyone had a place to sleep that was comfortable, like not sleeping on a floor or a couch, you know. Anyways, back to the story. We end up driving back to my parents' house. However, we end up hitting rush hour and it ends up taking us 3.5 hours to get from LA to my parents' house. Keep in mind, my parents usually live about an hour and a half from LA. So the whole time I was contracting. It was terrible, honestly. Like, I was trying so hard not to cry because it started hurting so bad. Pause. From now on in this story time, whenever I say my house, I am talking about my parents' house because obviously this house, my house, is not in the story anymore. We never came here. So keep in mind, my house is my parents' house. I still, for some reason, didn't feel like I needed to go to the hospital. I don't know why. The doctor said I was okay. They said I would have my baby on the 2nd. Maybe these are Braxton Hicks. I'm just overreacting. I don't know. But they hurt so bad. By the time we got back to my parents' house, I want to say it was like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And then, by the way, I didn't bring any of my stuff from my house, which is the bags I was telling you guys I needed to finish packing. I didn't end up bringing any of those from like my apartment to my parents' house. So I had no clothes to like change into. So my mom said that she would go get the clothes because I was contracting. Like, I was like in pain. I couldn't drive. So she said she would go get the clothes from my house and bring them. However, she ended up taking way too long. So me and Caden's mom end up going to Target, and I end up getting like a little pajama outfit. And keep in mind, still in freaking pain. After I get the outfit, I go to my house, and then I tell Caden, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna try taking a warm shower, but if this doesn't work, I feel like we're gonna have to go to the hospital tonight. Like, these contractions are hell. And I was kind of like joking about it, but like not really. It was kind of serious, but I don't know. And he was like, I bet. But he ends up going to sleep. So I hop in the shower, and I want to say I was in the shower for about 30 minutes. It was just like a warm shower, and to be honest, it did help with the contractions. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really like calm contraction pain. It's gonna hurt no matter what, but like the shower, the warm shower, I guess it kind of just like made me feel more relaxed, you could say. End up getting out of the shower, changing to my pajamas, and then I end up going into the loft in my parents' house and laying down on the couch, and that's where Caden had fell asleep. He was on the couch as well. So he's sleeping, I'm laying on the couch, and I'm on my laptop and my phone, and I was kind of just trying to distract myself. And as I'm laying there, I kind of just keep like turning from like one side to the next. I try like massaging my feet, trying to release more stress, you know. I just remember tossing and turning until eventually I tossed, and I just heard like a little sound, and then I just feel water flooding my legs, guys. And I'm like, oh my god, did my water just break? And keep in mind, it's dark right now, right? The lights are off because Caden was asleep. The lights were off. It's nighttime, so it's dark no matter what, you know what I mean? So all I have is like my computer light and my phone light. So I literally take the two and I kind of just like point them down, and I'm like lifting myself because, guys, I was soaking wet. So I'm like trying to lift myself, but I'm so uncomfortable. Like, it was just so weird. But anyways, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. And so then I end up waking Caden up. I'm like, Caden, wake up, wake up. And he's kind of like half awake. He's like, just like, huh. I'm like, Caden, my water just broke. And when I tell you, the moment he heard those words, this boy popped up and was like, what? I was like, my water just broke. He was like, should I go get my mom? I was like, yes, go get her. Go get my grandma. So that's what he does. He beelines it out the room and goes and gets his mom and my grandma. And I beeline it to the bathroom. And like, guys, I don't know why. I know this is like, it's a natural part of birth, but I was like so embarrassed that like I just bought these new pajamas and like now they're soaking wet and like the couch is soaking wet and like this isn't my house and I'm just so uncomfortable, you know. I go into the bathroom, my grandma ends up coming, and guys, I locked the door. She ends up coming and she was like banging at the door like, Chandler, Chandler. I'm like, yes, Nana, I'm fine. She's like, why'd you lock the door? I'm like, because I want privacy. She's like, but what if something happens to you? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm literally just like gonna take a shower and then we can leave, but like my water broke, that's it. And so she was like, okay, I'm gonna call your mom. So she tries to call my mom. My mom's not answering. I try to call my mom. My mom's not answering. I end up hopping in the shower, and then by the time I hop out the shower, my mom finally answers her phone, and I'm like, yo, mom, my water broke. And my mom's like, okay, I'm 10 minutes away from the house. Are you ready to go to the hospital? Is Caden ready? And I'm like, yeah, he's getting ready. I'm gonna get dressed after I get out the shower, and we can head to the hospital. So that's what we did. She gets there. Caden put all of like she had brought my stuff from my house, like the diaper bags, the hospital bags, all that from my house, and put it in the living room. So then, focus. So then Caden ends up taking the stuff that we need from that pile, putting it back in the car, and we all get in the car. Just me, my mom, and Caden get into her car, and she drives us because I couldn't drive. Caden also can't drive like an American car because he's British. Don't know if I needed to mention that, but maybe you guys knew or didn't know that already. My baby dad is British, so he can't drive American cars either, so that's why my mom drove us. She ends up driving us to the hospital. Keep in mind, my hospital is about an hour away from, no, not an hour, maybe like 40 minutes away from my parents' house. So, but that's like the hospital I wanted to go to. Keep in mind, there is a closer hospital to my parents' house that is like the same, what is that called? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like the same hospital but two different locations, you get me? That's like 10 minutes from my parents' house, so we could have gone to that one, but I've been to that one and I don't like it, so I was like, Mom, drive me to my hospital. So that's what she did. She drove us, but first we stopped at McDonald's and I got myself a large Sprite because I knew I wasn't gonna be able to like drink or eat anything, or so I thought, when I got to the hospital. So after that, we get there, my mom pulls into like the drop-off area, and then Caden grabs the bags that we need. Just like, we only took my bag in. Yeah, we took my bag in, and I feel like we took something else in because I was carrying my suitcase, and then Caden was carrying something. I think like a backpack or something. I don't remember. But we took those bags in. But as we're walking, I just remember saying to him, by the way, we put a towel in my mom's car because I was like my water was still breaking in the car. So yeah, it was, the towel was soaking wet. But when we get out, like I could feel my water breaking still and like dripping down my leg. And I just remember telling Kaden, like, I'm so embarrassed, like it's dripping down my leg, like oh my gosh. And to be honest, can I first say, like, I really appreciate Kaden, because throughout the whole situation he was really calm and supportive and helpful. But yeah, he just ends up telling me, like, it's normal, it's natural, like you're fine, come on. So we end up going and we check into the same desk that I checked in earlier that morning. And I end up telling them, like, hey, I was here earlier, my mucus plug fell out, but now I'm having contractions and my water broke. So they're like, okay, so you're gonna go and sit there, we're gonna, you know, take your vitals and then check you in or whatever. So that's what they do. However, once again, I'm sitting in this chair, guys, and when I tell you, my water was still freaking breaking. I was just like so embarrassed. And I just remember telling Kaden, I was like, Kaden, like the whole fucking chair is soaking wet, like I don't even want to stand up, and I know they're gonna ask me to stand up. And he was like, once again, it's fine, they'll clean it, like you're okay, like just relax. And I'm like embarrassed. And anyways, I ended up standing up, guys, and you can see, like, do you guys ever go swimming and you're wearing like a bathing suit, and then when you sit somewhere dry it leaves like your butt marks there from how wet you were? Yeah, that's what happened to me in the chair. My butt ended up leaving little marks, and it was so disgusting. So I'm like, that's not beach water, that's not pool water, like that's fluid and that's gross. But I ended up telling the lady, I was like, hey, excuse me, like my water's breaking, and it like got on the chair, and she's like, oh no, don't worry about it, it's fine, it happens all the time, like we'll clean it up and you don't need to worry, like it's so okay. And I was like, thank God. Okay, anyways, so they ended up putting us in this room where it's like a waiting room where you wait for the doctor to come and get you to put you into like the doctor's office room that I was telling you guys I was in earlier. So we're in there, and it's just literally a bunch of pregnant women in there. I think there was like 3 other pregnant women in that room with me, with like their moms or like their husbands or boyfriends or whatever. Like they had people with them. And then it was me, my mom, and Kaden in that room. And we were in there for about, I want to say like 10 minutes. Keep in mind, guys, all these women were in there before me, but I ended up being the first one called out into a room. And I think it's because my water broke, and after your water breaks you can only be in labor for 24 hours before you have to have a C-section. So the doctor comes, she takes me, she puts me into this room. However, she tells me like only me and one other person can be in this room. So Kaden ends up going with me, and so we go into the room and she tells me to strip from here down, waist down, there you go. She tells me to strip waist down. So I end up taking off my pants, and then she ends up checking me to see how far dilated I am. And oh, I forgot to mention, earlier that morning they checked how dilated I was, and I was only 1.5 centimeters. But now she checks me and I am now 4 centimeters. And I guess they usually check you in when you're 5, but like I said, my water broke, so they were gonna check me in no matter what. She ends up telling me that they are gonna check me into a room, but they're waiting for the nurse to come in, or like the doctor to come back in from their break or something like that. So we have to wait. But she was like, there is a room ready for you, we're just waiting for the doctor to come back. And I was like, okay. But she ended up moving me into like a bigger room, because that room did not have a bathroom in it. So she ends up moving me into one that does have a bathroom in it, and that's when my mom ends up coming into the room. And so at this point she ends up telling me to strip completely and put on like this gown. But guys, I had my own gown. Shout out to Freedom Mom, because that gown was so comfortable. I think, by the way, I wasn't trying to be bougie and have like my own gown. The only reason I wanted to wear my own gown was because it kind of felt like a piece of home, instead of wearing something that like I know a bunch of people have been in and like it screams hospital. You know, I had on this nice gray hospital gown that Freedom Mom sells. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check it out. But it was so comfortable, it was so soft, and yeah, I just felt more comfortable in it. But I ended up changing into that, and then I'm just laying and I'm being monitored. They have like these 2 monitor bands around me, one to monitor my contractions and one to monitor the baby's heartbeat. So as I'm in there though, guys, I am telling you, I was screaming my head off at this point though, because my contractions were so bad. I'm just screaming and screaming and screaming. And then next thing you know, I end up throwing up blood. Guys, I don't know what was going on at this point. I just was throwing up blood. At this point, she comes in and she's like, okay, we're going to put you on an IV because I'm throwing up blood. They don't know why. So she puts me on an IV, and I ask her if I can get the medication that makes you kind of like loopy. And she was like, oh, the pain medication. I was like, that, whatever, I want that. I wanted an epidural, but my mom was like, no, you don't need the epidural, don't get the epidural. I was like, okay, I don't want to get it right away because maybe I can do this without the epidural, but can I get that pain medication? Let's see how that works first. So she was like, okay, yes, we can give it to you, but we have to wait 20 minutes after the IV just to make sure your body is taking everything in or something like that. And I was like, 20 freaking minutes? Are you kidding me? So guys, I remember literally saying like, has it been 20 minutes yet? Has it been 20 minutes yet? Has it been 20 minutes yet? Like screaming. Finally, they gave me the pain medication. And when I tell you guys that medication, I don't know what it's called. If you know what it's called, leave it in the comments down below for my future pregnant women or current pregnant women so they know to ask for it, because no one, I've told the story to people and they never know what it's called. But it ends up making you feel high. Like it literally makes you feel like you're on another planet. You're still in pain though, but you're kind of like, it's to the point where you're high and in pain, but like the highness kind of distracts you from the pain, but you're still in pain. Does that make sense? After they end up giving me that, they're like, okay, the doctor is here, we're gonna move you into the other room. I think that's what happened. Guys, when I tell you that medicine kind of made me like so out of it. I even asked Caden, because I remember getting into the room, like the big room, the delivery room, but I don't remember how I got there. I remember even asking Caden like, how the hell did we get in here? And he was like, what is wrong with you, you know? But we ended up getting into the delivery room, and then I remember them asking me like, do you want the epidural? And guys, I said yes, but I didn't mean that I wanted it right then and there. I just meant that I eventually wanted it, but they meant like right now. Do you want it right now? So I don't know why they did this. It makes no sense to me even to this day. Even when they were doing it, I was like high, but I was like still sensible, you know? Like they ended up giving me the epidural while I was freaking on this pain medication and out of it. So I just remember like they tell you do not move, you know, don't try not to talk, like all this stuff, so that the epidural, because they have to get it like straight in your back, and if you mess it up you could get paralyzed and blah blah blah, you know? But I remember being so high, like I'm like, are you guys done? Did you do it? Can I move now? Am I moving? Am I moving too much? Like I thought I was moving because I was so freaking high. I don't know why they gave me the freaking epidural while I was high, but the girl ends up doing it, and then the doctor goes to check, and she was like, it's a little crooked. Like not crooked, it was a little to one side than the other. So she ends up telling me like, we're gonna have to remove it and do it again, because if we leave it like this, only half of your body will be numbed from the medication and the other half will feel all the pain. And I'm like, are you serious? So they end up doing it once again. Okay, finally I am numbed on the epidural. When I tell you guys, I know people will say like, don't get the epidural. If you can do it without the epidural, do it without the epidural. But when I tell you my personal experience, that epidural felt like heaven on fucking earth at that moment. I did not feel any pain. The moment that epidural set in, from that moment until after my son was born, guys, I felt no pain. I felt no activity down there, like when the doctors would have to put their fingers up you to check how dilated you were, or like, you know, move things around. I felt none of that. When they took out my my placenta, I didn't feel it. When they took out anything else they took out, they could have took out my spleen, they could have took out my appendix, my left kidney. I did not feel any of it. I literally felt nothing. So I love that epidural, and if I ever had a kid in the future, I probably won't, but if I did, I would definitely take the epidural again, because it was the best thing ever. At this point, I have finally calmed down, guys. I end up going to sleep because they're just monitoring me now, but they end up telling me like, yes, the baby is going to be coming today. And at this point, today was the 31st. I ended up falling asleep for about 30 minutes, but when I tell you guys that those 30 minutes literally felt like 6 hours, it was the best sleep of my life, because I hadn't slept since the day before in the morning. I was up for a long time, so I was really tired. So when I finally got to sleep, it felt great. However, I ended up waking up to a doctor waking me up saying like, hey hun, so we noticed that your baby isn't moving, so we're gonna need to like move your positions and stuff. And I was just like, what? Like my baby isn't moving. And it was just a lot of whispering and stuff in my doctor's room, between the nurses and the doctors, and them, not really whispers, but like low talking. I don't know if they were doing that because like I had been asleep, and Caden had also fell asleep on like the couch bed as well, but I don't know like why they were. It was just like a lot of like mumbling, I would say. But yeah, they end up telling me like my baby's not moving, and they're gonna try moving my position to see if he moves, and they're gonna just keep monitoring me. So they keep doing that for about 2 hours, and he's not moving. And I'm getting really worried, because even when the doctors ends up saying that they're gonna possibly have to do an emergency C-section if he's not moving. They were like, we don't know why he's not moving. It might be because the cord is wrapped around his neck, because his heart is still beating, but he's just not moving. So I end up getting scared because I know about what happens if a cord is wrapped around a baby's neck. Look it up if you want to. It's kind of dark and scary and deep, but I ended up getting really worried, but I was really trying not to be worried. I really believe in the secret, which is the power of attraction, and I believe that if you attract positive things around you, that is what will happen. But if you start to focus on negative things and believing that the negative is the only situation that you will have, that is what's going to happen. And so I was really trying to stay, you know, focused and on being positive, but I was worried. And so I ended up telling the doctor, I was like, is there a way I can get some Sprite or like some cold water, because I know that my baby moves when I drink cold stuff. And she was like, well, we don't want to give you anything because we're trying to monitor you, so we're just gonna hold off. We're just gonna keep monitoring you for a little bit. At this point, guys, I'm gonna leave out timestamps because I don't remember how like many minutes apart the stuff happened or hours apart the stuff happened. So I'm just gonna tell you guys the story from now on, just like with the details of what I remember. Okay, so they end up coming back in again, and once again they're like, okay, so we're gonna try moving you to another position because he's still not moving, you know, and it looks like we might have to do a C-section once again. And I'm like, okay, again, can I please just get some Sprite? Like, I promise you, if I just get a little bit of Sprite, like, he'll move, like, you know. And she's like, once again, like, we can't really give you anything, I'm sorry, let's just see what happens after we move you to this position. Okay, she leaves, and then eventually a different doctor ends up coming in, and she kind of came in to do like a final check, I think, before they took me to go get a C-section. So she's checking, she's like, yeah, and your baby's not moving, but we do have a heartbeat, which is good, but it looks like you're gonna have to do a C-section because he's not moving. And I finally plead to this lady, I'm like, please, before we do a C-section, can I please just try drinking some Sprite? Like, he always moves whenever I drink Sprite or cold drinks, I promise you. And she was like, well, I guess that's fine. Can one of you nurses go get her a Sprite? So she's like, okay, we'll try this, we'll see what happens, but like I said, hun, I'm, you know, most likely gonna have to do a C-section. So I'm like, okay. So the nurse finally brings me back my Sprite, and guys, when I tell you, I sipped that Sprite, and the nurse was looking at the monitor, she goes, oh my gosh, your baby is moving. Did I not freaking say this about an hour and a half ago? Did I not tell you guys this? Like, I know my child. I know my child, okay? So she was like, yeah, your baby's moving. So she calls the doctor, and the doctor's like, that's interesting. Huh. I'm like, yeah, it was the Sprite. Like, he moves whenever I drink cold drinks. I don't know. It's just, he likes that stuff. So, yeah. By the way, I forgot to mention that they also tried like poking him. She tried touching him from like inside me. She touched his head, and she said when she touched his head that he moved a little bit, so that was a good sign. But when they tried touching him from the outside, like poking him and stuff and getting him to move, he wasn't moving. Which, if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you know that when I went to go do ultrasounds, my child would not move. He would get into the position he liked, and then no matter what, if we would try to get him to turn so that we could get good pictures of his face, he did not give a fuck. Like, he would not care. He would stay where he wanted to stay, and that was it. So that's why I knew that me drinking this drink, because that's what I would do when I would go to my ultrasounds, I would drink like a Kool-Aid or like a Sprite, and it would get him to move. So that's why I knew that that would work. So same thing happened in the hospital. That's what worked. He moved, and she was like, okay, you're great, you're good. Okay, well, we're gonna just keep monitoring you now, okay? They're monitoring me, and then another thing comes up. The doctor ends up coming in, and she was like, hey, hun, so your baby's moving now, but his heart rate is starting to drop. And I'm like, I know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, your baby's heart rate is supposed to be between 120 and 180. And I knew that him dropping below, like, was scary, okay? And she was like, it looks like once again we're gonna have to do a C-section. But first we're gonna try putting you on oxygen. So they ended up giving me this oxygen mask, and at this point I wasn't allowed to go back to sleep because whenever I would go to sleep, his heart rate would start dropping. Basically what they told me was my body was starting to steal oxygen from the baby. So by inhaling extra oxygen, that was supposed to help me and him and get his heart rate up. You know, I'm freaking out though because, guys, they literally moved me in so many positions, and here's me getting freaking emotional. I'm trying so hard not to cry, but I was so freaking scared because they tried moving me to like one side, and his heart rate would like go up for a little bit, but then eventually it would drop, and then they would try moving me to another side, and it would just drop completely, and it wasn't like going back up. And then I would notice though, like whenever I would inhale like super big, like it would make his heart rate go up every time. But if I was just breathing normally, it would make his heart rate go down. So the whole time I just had to keep going. And you guys can kind of see that in the video. But that technique was only working sometimes. There was a lot of times they kept coming in and they were like, his heart rate's going down. And I guess the worst part about it is like the machine is right there and I could see the machine, my mom could see the machine, so we could see when his heart rate was dropping. And I don't know, it was really scary. Not gonna cry. Eventually though, he ends up getting to a healthy point. His heart rate is like stable and I end up feeling like I need to poop, okay? So I call, my mom was like, that means that you're about to give birth, you need to push. So we end up calling the doctor in and she was like, okay, you're currently at a 9.5 centimeters dilated. She's like, there's just a little bit of cervix in the way, but I think I can move it enough for you to give birth right now. So we're gonna go ahead and start doing some pushing. So funny story real quick first. I was at this point, my legs were kind of propped up like this. Like the bed kind of comes up, it puts like two little feet things there for you to prop your feet on. And so at this point though, I'm trying to start pushing for birth, so they need to put those feet things down and bring the bed back up to like a normal position, but it ends up getting stuck and they end up sitting there for about 10-15 minutes trying to figure out how to fix the bed. And eventually another nurse comes in and she like did something, she wiggled it and eventually got it to go back up. But I just remember sitting there like, are you guys serious? Like they were all, I'm gonna tell you guys, it was about 6 doctors and nurses in there trying to figure out how to fix this damn bed. And I'm like, I'm ready to push, like this baby is coming out. So anyways, we end up doing the pushes and they tell me I'm a good pusher. I ended up pushing for about, I want to say like 2-3 minutes when they noticed that once again my baby's heart rate was dropping a lot and quickly. And so once again I start freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, okay, stop pushing. And that's when you guys hear in the video that the doctor says it seems like my baby doesn't like any stress. Oh, I forgot to mention they also took me off of Pitocin. They had put me on Pitocin, but they ended up taking me off of it because they noticed it was stressing my child out. So me pushing was also stressing my child out. Isn't he a mood? He just doesn't like stress. Everything was stressing him out, and whenever it stressed him out, his heart rate would drop. So they end up monitoring me again, and eventually his heart rate gets back to stable. And once again, I feel like I need to push. And if I remember clearly, I started pushing and it started stressing my child out again, so his heart rate started decreasing. And I just remember the doctor saying to me that they're going to try to vacuum suction his head out, or if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to go into a C-section. They got all the stuff ready. They were pulling the vacuum out. They put like the stuff on me for the baby to be born, like the sanitized. It's like this brown stuff. It looks really weird, kind of like they're smearing like poop or mud on me. I remember seeing like one of the ladies getting dressed in the stuff, like the, not scrubs, but the stuff to have a C-section. I was like so worried. It's in the video. You guys literally see me like turn my head and look at her and then turn back, and like guys, I was freaking out. Guys, the thing is, I was not scared about a C-section. I probably should have cleared this up earlier in the video. I was not scared about having a C-section of like the surgery. Oh, obviously, I mean, surgery kind of scares me, but I was more scared that if we didn't make it in time, like what if my son didn't make it, you know, or like what if the cord is wrapped around his neck and he doesn't make it, or just like there's a lot of things. I was worried for my son more than I was worried for myself, okay? So that's why when I wanted to push him out, so just to like have him out, you know, just to like, I just wanted to push him out already and just make sure he was out of me and he was fine and he was healthy, you know. But I felt like with the C-section, I was just really scared, like if he didn't make it, or just, I don't know, so many complications with that. I just remember them telling me that we're gonna start pushing again, and guys, happy ending. I never ended up having to get the suction, the vacuum suction. I ended up being able to push out my baby boy after about 10 minutes, and he was born at 10:10 a.m. which 10:10 a.m. is angel numbers. If you don't know about 10:10, look it up. We'll look at what it means, but like I'm so into that kind of stuff. So the fact that my child was born at 10:10 a.m. January 31st, he made it into January. If you guys don't know, I'm really weird, but I do not like the month of February just because of how it's spelled, how it's pronounced, how it looks. I just don't like that month. And people say that I'm such a stupid person for like having months that I like and dislike, but that's just me. I don't give a fuck. That's my preference. I don't like the month of February. I like January. I'm born in January. My child's dad is born in January. So I wanted our son to also be born in January, which I figured he wasn't going to make it, but he came on January 31st, the last day of January. I was so freaking happy, and at 10 a.m. Because he was born early though, he was really small. He ended up weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces. And yeah, but he was healthy. Everything was great. However, we ended up finding out why I was having so many complications in my labor and delivery. It was because my placenta ended up abrupting. I cannot say that word, but abrupting. Basically, my placenta went it split into a bunch of pieces, and that's what was causing so much trouble with my birth, my son's birth. So they ended up telling me that they had to send my placenta away to a lab, because I actually wanted to get my placenta turned into placenta pills, but they were like, no, you can't keep it, we have to send it off to a lab, because I guess it's very rare for your placenta to abrupt. But mine did. I do want to say though, the moment I held my son, like, I didn't care about any of that stuff. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, he's here. I'm so happy he's here. He was a perfect little boy. I was crying. You guys have seen that video. I was crying. But I just want to say thank you to my mom and Caden for being such a great support system. My sister was there as well, but she wasn't really there as like a support system. Just to clarify, she was there to like film, and like she was wanted to be there. But like my mom was the one who was like, when his heart rate was dropping, she was pushing me through it, and same with Caden. They just kept giving me like positive things to remember. And yeah, I just want to thank them both so much, because I don't know what I would have done without them. But yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I just want to say to anyone watching this that giving birth is hard as it is, but I would just say no matter what, try to stay positive about it, because in the end, you know, it all works out. God's plan is God's plan, and what will be for you will be for you. So just try not to, you know, overthink it or be too negative in a situation. Like, just remember that you're doing this for the child that is inside of you, and even though it might hurt, like the pain, you'll get through it. It will be another day. And you know what's crazy? Before I gave birth, I was always thinking about like the day that I give birth, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in so much pain, it's gonna hurt so bad, like I don't even know how I'm gonna do it. But now it's crazy that I've already gone through that pain. That pain is in the past, and it's like, today's another day. I'm fine. I'm doing great, you know? So just don't overthink it. It'll be fine. It'll all work out. You'll do good. You'll have a beautiful child as soon as it's done. You know, you got this. You got this. Our bodies are made for this. Us women are stronger than you even know. So yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I kind of tried to give it to you guys so like it wouldn't be too long, but those are the details of what happened. I will be doing like a what I actually used for my diaper bag video, a Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, leave them down below. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I love you so much. I'm Chandler Alexis, and I'm signing out. Bye guys.